Let's see, I want CSCI 01 spring 24 lecture day. What day are we on? There's no way we're on the second. Is it? Oh yeah, we're only doing Fridays, so yeah. Lecture day 02. So this is module 3, functions. And I realize that's the open screen, so that's not going to help me. But I can grab that and copy and paste. Come over here, start a new project. Get our source file going on. And let's come over to the module and copy some shit. Intro to functions. We'll copy. You know what? I'll copy both right now. Copy, paste. And then I'm going to come over and grab the hypotenuse one. And I'm going to copy and paste it, but I'm going to comment it out for now. That way I have it all here already. So let's comment that out. All right, so what do we got? CSCI 01, spring 2024, lecture day 2 on module 3, functions. We're going to talk about function prototypes in a little bit. I'm going to comment that out real quick. And bring this up above. I'm going to copy the thing that says function implementation up above real quick. So this simple app looks like it does converts an age into dog years. Converts real time or calendar years into effective dog years. By the time a dog's 2 years old, they're like 14. They're like a teenager. By the time they're 3, they're mature. They act like mature dogs. And they're 21 at that point. That's the idea where they came up with this 7. There's no fucking good basis for it, other than lining it up with behavior patterns with humans. So what is this thing right here? This is called a function. Just like in mathematics, we have y equals f of x. Yes, everyone's familiar with this. X is an input, and it's in the parentheses. It's in the parentheses. And our output is outside. It says y. In math, we use y. So I'm going to change this to say x and z, just because I was using y up above. Or better yet, x1 and x2. Nope. What is x here? X is a name. Why don't we just call it string? I'm going to call it arg name. I'm going to call z arg age. And I'll change the effective stuff here. Okay, I just edited the code a little bit. Give you a second to make changes if you want. I don't think we need all that space. Actually, it made it a little bit more readable, didn't it? At least having that gap there. Okay, and notice the way this function, the title we have here. The way we use functions in computer science, well, at least in C++, has a specific format. We start off with output type. Maybe I'll use brackets here. That goes in front. Then we have name of function. And then in parentheses, we have, maybe instead of saying output type, I'm going to say output data type. And inside we've got input data type. And then data type or data name. Variable name. That's a basic single function. What I have here, though, I have a comma. So when you have more than one input, variable name 1, input data type 1, comma, I'm going to call them bar 1 and bar 2 for now. And that's what's going on here. So our function here, our dog function, takes in the dog's name and age and calendar years. And it outputs or returns nothing. A void. We'll look at option in a second, but we can actually make a quick function here that does it. That does something different. Let's make one real quick. If we want to use one that has a different type of output, like let's say double, I'm going to say convert dog years. And we'll just take in the int arg age. What we would return when you have a return and it's not a void, you have to return something. In our case, we can do return arg age divided by 7. Arg age is a decimal though, so maybe I'm gonna, or an integer, so maybe I'm gonna say divided by 7.0. That'll force it to be a decimal, a double. Alternatively, we could have declared a new variable in here. Temp variable equals the arg age divided by 7.0, and then said return temp variable. That's how a lot of new students start doing it. Show the conversion. We're saying temp variable will be a double. We're doing some integer division, so we make sure we include a decimal and force it to be a double. And then we're going to say return temp variable. This one's not being used yet though, so I just wanted to, we'll insert that. We'll use it in a second. I just wanted to show that void is not the only type of return. Usually our void return ones are specifically for print commands or something that uses pointers or references, which we are not ready to do yet. Much later. And I'll explain to you why in a second. You'll see the difference. Guys ready to take a look at it, Ryan? Is my file name too big? It's the fucking file name. God damn it. All right, Control A, Control C. Let me make a new fucking folder with a shorter path name. You stupid piece of shit. That's shorter. You are just a hot mess with passwords, aren't you? MFer. You really copied the wrong goddamn thing. I'm glad I didn't close the other one. All right, let me close the other one now. That's the long one. All right, same code we had before. We're doing the dog function thing. Let's run it. Line 29, there is an error. See previous definition. Oh, let me delete this. All right, my dog's name is Lunar, or maybe it's my name. Let's see what the output looks like. I'll say David. My age, my dog age, my age and dog year. That's what it does. It's saying how old would I be if I was a dog. I totally fucking didn't understand this project. How old do you all think I am? You're such a suck up. You're not even a student. Don't suck up that much. I'll say 36. What'd you say? No, but you were in the correct direction. You rounded down a lot. I will be 49 in April. If you eat lots of preservatives, you keep nice baby face. All right, enter your name, David, age. It says my age in dog years is 5. So 36 divided by 7 is 5 point something. I guess it's rounding down. I guess we never say the dog is 5.5, right? No, it's divided. It's my age, calendar age divided by years. If it was dog's age, we would multiply it by 7 to get to adult years.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what happens is we have our function written above the program, and it's converting my age into the effective dog years. And the program comes along and prompts the users. We talked about doing a prompt, the CN and stuff before, and using get line for strings, and everything else was CN. And then it did a function call here. And notice it just runs the name of the program. Output age dog in years, age in dog years. And I don't have to tell it what the data types are here. The data types are declared up here. So in mathematics, we always use doubles or real numbers. We don't have no optional input in mathematics. It's not even always real numbers. Some functions are designed to take in complex numbers. It just has to be a number in mathematics. In computer science, we can tell it what type because we maybe want to conserve memory. Integer takes up less memory. And in a big project, a big program, that becomes important. A simple app like this, that where it runs and it's done in a second, that isn't all that important, but it's good to get in the habit now. I didn't need to say anything other than just run it. What about this one up here where I said convert dog years? What if I try to do that right here? What if I just say convert dog years age? Let me put a little, don't want to get rid of that. Let's do a little C out with some stars here. So we can see exactly where this was supposed to be. Maybe I'll throw in an extra end line. So my convert dog age years or dog years one, which just does the math up here. I got it done twice. I'll comment out this one for now. There's nothing there. Look at that. We look at our program. Convert dog years age should be between the double 2 asterisk lines, but it's not. Because if we look at the convert dog years age function, there's nothing in here that says print it out, right? All it's doing is taking my answer 6. That's all it's doing is it's putting 6 like that in the program. After I've put in 48, it's putting in 6 here. If I wanted to do something, I have to do a C out with it. And now I have it, and now it gives me a decimal answer. So, because we said it was a double. And it does, maybe I should add another end line right there to make it look pretty. Try that again. Still not pretty, but it still shows it at least. Maybe I'll come here and add another end line. We can actually use these functions and do a whole shitload of shit outside of our main function and just pass in the results. It could be something really fucking complicated, like fucking calculating your taxes. You know what I mean? You go to IRS, H&R Block, and they're like, give us these numbers, like how much did you make? How many dependents you have? And they're typing it all in. What it's effectively doing is it has a giant fucking function and it passes each of those numbers in. And inside the function, it does all the fucking tax work and it spits out the answer. That's what the program in H&R Block is doing. You could do it yourself if you were fucking really good at taxes. You could design your own. So we don't have it, because if you think about it, if you're trying to make like picture making Elden Ring, if you've played Elden Ring or even know, does anyone not know what Elden Ring is? You may not have played it, but you at least know what it is. Or Assassin's Creed or any fucking big game. You haven't played any video games? Do you play video games at all? What's your favorite video game? What? That's a good choice. Skyrim's a big, big fucking file. So Skyrim, if we had the code for everything in Skyrim, all the fucking NPCs, the inventory management, the management of how the monsters act, how fighting works and everything is all in the main. Could you imagine trying to find your fucking error? If you have an error, this thing is going to be thousands and thousands of lines of code long. But if every monster is a function and what's going on is just passed back in, we could have the main a lot shorter. And if we go, oh, there's something wrong with the monsters, we just go to the monster function, which is a lot easier to find. And so there's a reason why we do these functions. It makes it easier. And we'll be going more on that in a second. We could, if we wanted to, declare a new variable. Call it dog age. And then I could say dog age equals convert dog age and pass in the age. So what this does is it runs the dog age function and returns the age in dog years and stores it in the variable dog age. So rather than saying C out convert dog years age here, I'm just gonna say dog age. It was convert dog age, right? It's fucking mad at my dog years, convert dog years. Got the wrong name. I need to play Skyrim. I have not. I started playing in VR for 5 minutes. I'm a role-playing game person. Skyrim is right up my fucking alley. I thought I'm gonna do it in VR, and that shit fucking made me sick as fuck. VR is only fun for like 45 fucking minutes. And like when I play, I'm fucking there for hours. You don't even want to see how much time I've logged into Dark Souls 3 since the start of this semester. And I didn't have it fucking installed at the start of this semester. So it was a couple days in. I'm like, I feel like playing Dark Souls 3. I'm at fucking 40 hours or some shit like that now.
When you take it off,
What?
like when you take it off, you know what, like when you're running on
How's the VR feel?
yeah, so like when you take off the VR, and then it feels kind of weird when you're back with it.
If I have it, if it's been too long and I have it too tight.
It's like when your phone to your screen, and then I can't turn around and get lazy, but not
The glasses kind of fucking make it a little worse.
Oh.
And I don't think I think I need new glasses, which doesn't even fucking that makes it even worse. I got to do that pretty soon. All right. So I haven't run this yet. I haven't showed you that I'm not talking on my ass. Let's run it and show you how it works. Ooh. It's stored it as a 6, not the 6.85, because I said dog age was an integer. So that's important to know. That's actually good to know. The function spit out a double. So this was spitting out the 6.85, whatever the fuck it was. But I have it stored in an integer variable. So any integer stored or any double stored as an integer rounds down, in case you didn't know that. Any double stored in an integer is rounded down, not rounded correctly. Not necessarily rounded correctly. Because if it's above 0.5, we're supposed to round up, right? So if we want to fix that, I can go up and call this a double and run it, and now it should give me the 6.85. Okay. So a good thing to do when you're creating new functions and you just want to make sure you have the shit set up right. I'm going to comment this out real quick. Just have it set up and say return something appropriate, 2.5. Now, the way I have it going right now, no calculations, just testing my setup. If I do that, it should say dog age is 2.5 no matter what age I enter. I'm going to say I'm 103. Oh. And it still says 2.5. So that function says 2.5. So when you do something like this to just test the setup, this is called a function stub. That's what they call it. It's just in case you ever hear the lingo. That's the lingo. Function stub. Once you know that your function setup is working correctly, then you go in and turn that shit off and either activate that, or here I had, when I did this, I had 2 lines of code. But when you get more practice, sometimes you'll find out that you don't need 2 lines of code. Sometimes you can trim it down. The idea of trimming it down to less lines of code is called refactoring. We're redesigning the program. We're trimming out all the fat. Make it fucking lean and mean. I'll run that real quick and show that it works with the return like that. We still see our 6.85 again. And I'm going to comment that out and go back to something up. I'm going to redo these because I want to illustrate something else here. No, I'm going to do this. Keep that commented out. I'm going to say, check this out. I'm going to say arg age equals arg age divided by 7.0. Okay. Actually, before I do that, I want to show what happens in the main when you do that. So I'm going to do a C out age divided by 7.0. I want to illustrate what happens. If I do this in the main, it does it correctly. If I do the same thing inside the program, I'm passing in age. So when I pass in age up here, where is it? If I say arg age equals arg age divided by 7.0, this reassigns a new value to arg age. Okay, is everyone good with that? We can override our own variables, even using them in the same operation. We can reference them in ourselves. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say return arg age. And show you something. That's, hold on a second, not what I want to show you. I'm gonna make that a double. Fuck it. I don't want to see out age divided by 7. I want to just see out age. Okay. So we are passing in the name and the age. I'm going to pass in David 48. And it's going to convert my age. It's taking 48. It's sticking it into dog years. And it's saying we're going to assign the value. The new age to dog age was going to be the 6.85. Up inside the program, I'm actually changing the value. Arg age, the value of arg age has changed. It's very important that you understand this. Value of arg age is changed. So if it changes it, you might think that it changes it down here. You might think changing arg age in the function changes it out here. If it does, this C out age should say 6.85. It went back to 48. So changes made in the function, I'll say that here, down here. It doesn't. Changes made in the function, changes made to a variable. I directly changed the variable that we passed in. Changes made to a variable in a function do not change the variable in the main program. When we use functions, we are passing a copy of the value. And so it's literally like if I have one thing, my birth certificate, and I fucking make a copy of my birth certificate and hand it to somebody. It doesn't matter if they make all sorts of fucking notes on it, do whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't change my hard copy. I still got my birth certificate. That can be good and that can be bad. The only way to change that would be I could change this by saying age equals current dog years age. Then that would change it in the main function. But I didn't do that. When we explore pointers and passing by reference, we will find a way to change it in the main. Which seems kind of like, that's kind of like what you're going to want in some things. You're making a fighting game and you've got a little function there. It's like a vendor function. You're like, you pass your fucking shit in, you pass in your trash loot and you get your good loot back, you get gold back. You better fucking get gold back. It better change. It should, unless the fucking system's set up bad, it will take away your inventory, your loot that you're selling and give you the gold. When it doesn't, when you get to keep the item and you still get the gold back, that's where you get duping problems for games that come out when they haven't fucking fully tested it. That's a duping problem. You passed the shit in, but it only passed a copy of it. It didn't pass the whole value. So when it changed the value in the function, it didn't change the value in the game, and you get people duping. That's duping. So when you pass by reference a pointer later on, we'll find a way to change that so that when we pass in the age, it changes the age outside. Okay, that's for a later thing. Any questions so far on functions? There's a lot of shit we talked about, right? Have I hit everything I wanted to say? I used arg here, but I could just as easily call it name and age. There's something to be said for naming the variables in the function different than what they are in the main. You don't get fucking confused. If I use X everywhere, well, what X is fucking, what's going on? If I slap on arg, arg stands for argument. And that's what the X is in f of X. X is the argument for the function f. That's what the math terminology is. Happens to be the same terminology in computer science. It's the argument of the functions. So if we add arg in there or something like that, change the name a little bit, then it doesn't look like you've got the same thing going on. You're like, it should change into somewhere else. You can avoid confusion and shit like that. Any questions so far? Okay, next idea. Let's say you're fucking making Skyrim. You got all these monsters, you got all these vendors, you got all these NPCs, you got all the fighting mechanics, and you got all these fucking functions. And I've only got fucking 2 functions up here. I got some chat up here, but I'm already fucking, my main is starting 43 lines down. Imagine how much further fucking down it's going to start if I have dragons and fucking zombies and ghouls and fucking different things for loot and how sales work and fucking gravity works and the lighting and environmental factors. We could be at line like 150 million, and then that's where the fucking main starts. So we do something else in programming where we do something at top is called the prototype. So above the main, we do prototypes of functions. It just gives output, function name, input requirements. No operations whatsoever. So I'm going to do this here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to say, this is one name. And I'll come up here and grab my convert dog ears. And I'm just doing a copy right now. And what we do is we go ahead and we take the rest of this shit, all the functions, and we move them. We are going to take all the fucking functions and move them down below. What the hell's going on here? Function prototype. I'm going to come down here below the main, put it right here. And down here, these are called function implementations, where we implement the function. Below the main is where we put all the function details, the details of the functions. So your full function goes down below, and you basically just take the name and put it up top. If I could put a colon at the end of it, semicolon, semicolon. The idea behind this is now up here, notice if I get rid of all the excessive fucking spacing, my main starts on line 11. When I open up this file, I can get to look at the fucking code right away. And I go, what does this program do? I can see right away what things it's asking for. So if I'm working with a bunch of different people, everybody's passing in different shit, I can go, oh, Juan sent this, Eli sent this, Nathan's working on this part, and we're all good to go. I can see where it's coming from. We will eventually do it near the end of the semester. We'll break this whole file up into 3 files. A file just for implementations, a file just for these prototypes, which is called the header file. And then we have our main function so that there's no extra fucking clutter here. It's all just the main. And so when people want to make changes, we got Nathan, Eli, Juan, and me all working on the same fucking project. We don't all need to have it in like fucking Google Drive and be writing on it simultaneously. We're each writing on our own shit on our own, uploading our shit, and it automatically updates in the main. So we like, that's the idea of where we're going. Big picture. We're getting there though. That's why we do this. It's called function separation. Or proper separation. What else should I call it, Juan? So another good name for prototype implementation separate. I don't know.
That's what I learned. Proper separation.
Proper separation. So when I'm saying I want to see separation, I want to see like the name of the function up above, and I don't want the nitty gritty fucking details. I don't give a shit about the nitty gritty details if I'm a user of the program, or if I'm working with you. If you're fucking working on environmental factors, and I don't give a fuck about environmental factors, unless there's like lava and it does damage to fucking players, I need to know. If you're just doing like, oh, the fucking lighting and all that shit, oh, it's fucking misty and it's raining, I don't give a fuck how all that shit works. I don't need to know how you fucking milk the cow. I just need to see the milk. So all I need is a name. I need to know you're working on environmental factors. All right, this thing right here, it just says environmental factors, and I will never see it. In a true program, all I'll see is the name of the file, and this stuff down below is saved elsewhere in another file that we reference here. I won't even see it. I won't know the details. I'll just know you did the environmental shit. Why is it getting moody here? Maybe it's still gonna just fucking run. Yeah, okay. Every once in a while, Visual Studio throws an error or says there's an error when there's not an error. And notice everything still works. I changed where stuff was, but it still works. I like that I can shrink down these comment blocks. That's fucking really handy. Makes it all less cluttery when I'm looking at it. Huh. Rude. Any questions so far? You guys want like a 5-minute break? Let's take a 5-minute break. Okay, so we're gonna do some pro tips. Pro tips. If you want a print function or something to print, use a function for it. A different function for it. If a function returns something, returns a value like the one below with dog ears, don't have it do couts at the same time. Okay. So I can go and combine these two things right here. Convert dog ears and output age and dog ears. I can use reference one function inside of another function. And I'm going to come down here and do that. Here, I've got arg name is arg age divided by 7. Instead of doing that, let me copy it because I'm just going to change it a little. I'm going to say convert dog years arg age. So what we're doing is we're passing in age and it's coming into arg age right here. Arg age is saying, go find me the value in convert dog years. Now, is this efficient use of my time right here? No. When I can just divide by fucking 7.0, right? The point is that you can do it. So if it's some really fucking big calculation, let's go back to H&R Block. There's a lot of shit going on in fucking taxes. You got your income. You got how dependents can fucking lower your taxes. How you can have expenses, write-offs. You could do a different function that calculates each one. And then the function that calculates taxes, like what you owe or what you're going to get back, just calls each of those functions one at a time and goes, okay, what's the write-offs? Okay, what's the total income? Okay, how much of a does he get a write-off for dependents? And so it's not all one big function, it's different functions that another function calls. So this is one function calling another function. That's what these are called, function calls. When you use a function, it's called a function call. So when you hear me say calling a function or function call, I'm saying you're just using the function. Okay? Now you think, math is probably one of the first things they fucking said, let's do this shit with, right? There's a whole fucking library of shit on how to do math easier. How to calculate values for sine and cosine and all that good shit that sucks by doing your fucking graphing calculators and all that shit. Got shit like this. It does it all for you. So there's a giant math library. So let's see. Do I want to use? I do. I'm going to comment out this code and go down to the hypotenuse notes. So let's comment out this code. And I'm going to come down here and uncomment the hypotenuse calculator notes. I want to go over a couple more ideas with you. Hypotenuse is, does anyone know what a hypotenuse is? Does anyone besides the SI know what a hypotenuse is? It's the opposite of the right angle in a fucking triangle. It's the longest leg in a triangle, a right triangle. It's usually calculated by the square root of side 1 squared by side 2 squared. As you can see when we do calculate hypotenuse here. So they did something that says SQRT. Guess what that stands for? Square root. That is not a normal function. If I tried to do square root up here, before I unhighlighted everything, it wasn't going to work. The reason why is there is something called the CMath library. CMath library is a handy dandy notebook. Math calculations. So this program is set up to have a function prototype like we were talking about, and then a function implementation down below. We have two variables, A and B. They're both doubles. And it says this program calculates the hypotenuse of any right triangle given the two legs. Enter the measure of a leg. So first leg will be leg A. Second leg will be leg B. And we're going to take in the values one at a time. And then it does a function called the calculate hypotenuse function. It's going to pass in both A and B. It's using x times x, which is what? That's just x squared, right? When you're doing in other programs in like text, you'll see it with the caret like that. Square root of x squared and y squared. C math has other stuff too. Rather than doing that, do this. I'm going to say int x squared equals, what is it, pow? Pow x comma 2. So this is a C math function also. The first thing in the parentheses is the base. Second value is the exponent. And pow is for power exponent. So this is calculating what x squared is. I could do the same thing for y squared. And then rather than doing the math right here, I could say x squared plus y squared. And I probably don't want integers since everything was a double. Seems kind of silly to fucking change it down to an integer. So pow for power function or powers, square root for square roots. And this covers all your powers. This is squared, but I could easily do an x cubed by just changing this to a 3. Okay. If you want to know how useful C math can be for you, we're going to come over here and we're going to go to c++.com.
Yeah, I was looking through it. They have a constant called infinity. I don't know how that works.
It's probably the max value that a computer can hold. It's got to be. It doesn't make sense to have it be less than the max value a computer can hold. And it can't hold more than it can hold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can only go so big. C math. Oftentimes you'll see math.h, which is another math library. I think it's even referencing the same fucking thing. Yeah, it is. Math.h. Math.h is what it used to be called. .h, remember how I was saying we're going to have one file for Juan, one for Eli, one for me? The .h stands for header file. That's where we're going to store like all of Juan's functions. He's just going to store the names of his functions in his header file. And his header file might be just called Juan.h. My header file would not be David.h because David's too fucking common. It'd be Hefe.h. Definitely Hefe.h. And then when we want to do the actual implementations, we'll have it's called a resource file. We will do all this later on, but it's like really hard to, it's a pain in the ass. So once you know how to do it, it's like only helpful when you're working with others. So if you're looking up shit online, like you're like, I need ideas or whatever. If you see math.h, it's the same thing as CMath. Look at all these functions that are in there. All the trig functions, A or arc is inverse. So inverse functions. You got your hyperbolic trig functions. Exponential is e to the something. It might even just be any base to the x. And then if you want to do where the variable is the base, you do pow. Oh, wow, there's a cube root function. There's a, nice, a hypotenuse function. Look at that, some bitch. You do not want to know about fucking Earth. Oh my God, gamma. Oh God, fucking grad school trauma flashbacks. You don't want to learn about that shit. Different port functions. So like when we do integer division or when we do or store a double in an integer, when I say it automatically rounds down, that's what floor means. Automatically round down to the next lowest or the base value, the whole number. Truncate is chop off decimals after a certain decimal place. So there's a lot of shit going on in here. Is it finite? That's kind of neat. Is not a number. Whatever happened just NaN? This checks to see if it's not a number. That's probably be handy. That's probably fucking pretty useful in going, hey, we want you to input a number and your jackass isn't paying attention and you put in your fucking name. I've done it. We've all done it. Put in the wrong fucking shit. I did earlier. I fucking said David 103 was my name. I didn't put my name in for my age. That was going to break the shit. But there's a lot of stuff to look up and learn about. This first semester, CSCI 1, I would just stick with the functions we're using in here and be able to like learn how to, because you can write everything on your own. You do not need the CMAT library. Doing x squared, I don't need to fucking go grab power. We already saw how to do it. This was or x times x plus y times y. You know how to fucking square a number. It's multiplied by itself. You don't need the power function. If you want to play around with the power function and the square root function, because I've used them in class, do it. As you're like, but this semester, just learn how to do the base shit. Next semester, we're going to let you fucking run hog wild. We're going to encourage it. Go look shit up. There's going to be a lot of go look it up. Because you saw that fucking library for CMath. There's a fucking lot. This is just one fucking library. Look at all those things. I bet no one knows how to use all of those functions. I'm betting the person that fucking started creating this library doesn't know how to use them all because he didn't create them all. He created a bunch and a couple other people said, no, we need some more shit in there. So they came up with some shit. They threw it in there. I bet the guy that even fucking wrote the library doesn't know all these functions. No one knows everything about one computer language. No one. It's impossible. So learn what you need as you go. This semester, just try to focus on the basics. Here we're doing functions. Do functions. Write your own functions. If we wanted to write a power function, we could write our own power function. Double. Square me, bitches. We're taking double x. And we're gonna come down here and we're gonna make square me bitches down here. Notice it's easy once you've just done the name, copy the fucking thing so you don't fuck up the name. And I can say, I could just say double temp equals x times x, and then do return temp. That's 2 lines of code. Or I could just say return x times x. And I used x above, so I'm probably going to call this argx. Because I don't want any fucking confusion. And you only need one set of these. You don't need both. I'm going to comment out that one because one line's better than 2 in terms of density. But while you're learning, write as many lines as you fucking need. That's the real idea. Write as much as you need and don't try to make it as condensed as possible right away. You'll learn how to condense and simplify stuff later on. Okay, so that's our C math library. Uh, oh, so remember I was telling you, like, it doesn't change the value when we put it back in the main. Anything we do in here doesn't change the main. What that's called when it doesn't change the main, when a function's argument doesn't change in the main, we say it has function scope. What did I call this? Yeah, function scope. And when you see the word scope, scope means where is this value good at? So like the argument argx, whatever I do to argx is only good inside square me bitches. Outside of square me bitches, it doesn't, there's no, it's not going to change my input. It's just changing shit in here. I could do all I fucking want to do down in here. I could fucking assign another value to x real quick. I could say like y equals x. And then I could fucking change x a shitload of times. And then I could go back at the end and say x equals y and return to its initial value. And nothing ever fucking changed in the main because it's got function scope. It's only designed to be done or only has impact inside the function. Say that again. You want to return what the return? That's fine. I'm glad you asked. I didn't fucking really say it. The output of the functions that don't say void outside are what is the return, what the return is. So return means output. In fact, it probably doesn't show it in this code. Oh, good, it does. Int main, when there's nothing listed inside the main, this is synonymous with void, but it has an integer return. So we're just returning 0. Sometimes some IDEs will let you get away with not having this line on the main. So like, we know this is the fucking main. We don't need you to tell us that we don't need to fucking return it. It is proper to have something here. Right. I could put fucking 25 here. Let's reference square me bitches up here. And run it. What's the most common simple right triangle that has all integer values?
3, 4, 5.
The 3, 4, 5 triangle. Excellent. So we had it using square me bitches, right? I turned off, it's not even using this. This is fucking extra shit right now. I said use squaring bitches for these. So I did a function call inside of another function. So like this is like a composite function. When we did in mathematics, when you did the fog x, f of g of x, that's what this is. So this is some fucking composite function calls. Our good old fog x from mathematics, if you remember it in algebra. Now, it's important to note if you're playing around and you have them only above the main, you haven't done this prototype and this implementation, order fucking matters. Calc hypotenuse is calling square me bitches. The only reason it works is because square me bitches has a prototype up here. If it didn't, check this out. I'm going to turn these off down here. And I'm just going to copy these bad boys down here and move them up top. I'll do a cut and paste. Removing all this shit above the main because I want to illustrate something. And then I'm going to move back. So calc hypotenuse is before square me bitches in my program. And it should cause a problem when I run it. Check this out. It said it doesn't like it. What if I take square me bitches and move it above calculate hypotenuse? I just changed the order. So if they're above the main, like if you're doing this and you haven't done the proper separation yet with the prototype and the main and the implementations, if you do one function calls another, the function that gets called within the other one needs to be listed first. Since calculate hypotenuse is calling square me bitches, square me bitches has to be defined before it's called. It can't be defined after. That's only if it's above the main. Down below, when we move all this shit down to where it actually is supposed to be for good program separation, it doesn't matter what order it is. I'm going to put square me bitches back after. Oh, what did I fuck up? Oh, I didn't turn the prototypes back on. If the prototypes aren't on, it doesn't know where to look. You got to have the names above it. So it goes, oh, you're going to have a function later on. You just didn't waste my time right here with it. That's what the prototype is. It's like the table of contents, really. There we go. Now it's running. And even though square me bitches is after calculate hypotenuse down below, up here it's already calculate hypotenuse already knows there's a function called square me bitches because they know there's a name up here. And it will go look for it even though it's after it. All right. Let's talk about history. Told you we talk about history. Let's talk about history. Computer science. And we'll go look up these people as I talk about them. First big important guy. You know what? I'm going to do this. I haven't shown you how to do a comment block. rather than doing a double slash every line, if you do a double slash and an asterisk, and then do a bunch of text, and then do an asterisk and a forward slash, it tells it this entire block is comment. So I don't need to write that comment line each time here. First guy we're going to look at is Charles Babbage. He had the difference engine. So let's go look up that bastard. What?
Really? Right? And there was a mechanical thing that you could do
Tell us about it. Go for it.
and stuff with. If I remember right, he got funding to make this machine thing, and he started working on it. And then, like, when he was most of the way through, he had a better idea of making another engine that starts with an A, I think. And then came back and went, "Hey, can I have more funding?" And they were like, "You haven't even gotten your first thing working yet. Why do you want more funding?"
That's some deep shit. You know, fuck more than I do.
It was I was studying for Academica, and he came up with his technology this year. And I've been that year.
I love that they call someone that's good at everything a fucking polymath. I like that it has math in the name. Someone that's kind of good at everything is a polymath. So this is Charles Babbage. In fact, it tells you that polymath is an individual who knows knowledge spans a substantial number of subjects. They know everything. I did the difference engine. If you want to know about the analytical engine came next. But he started with the difference engine. Look at this motherfucker. It's big. It was just used to tabulate polynomial functions. Simple. If I plug in a value, what does this function equal? Fuck, cough. Then along came the analytical engine. It was also a mechanical calculator. It just did arithmetic in the form of conditional branching and loops, which we're going to cover in the next couple of weeks, how to do conditional branches and loops. Look at this motherfucker, how big this is. The fucking room size. Took up a fucking room. The fucking computers they used to land on the fucking moon on Earth were fucking the size of a fucking room. They didn't even have computers at first. Have you seen what's the women function? Smart Women or
The club?
no, the movie.
Oh, it's like women
The NASA women one. What is it?
so hidden figures.
Hidden Figures.
Yes.
Hidden Figures. So computers were people that computed. Compute is perform calculations. NASA didn't have fucking computers till IBM came up with something that worked for them. So they had women doing it, and then they go in to get this giant fucking computer to land on the fucking moon. Now, everything that they did in that fucking big ass room-sized computer, I don't even use a fraction of the fucking memory on this phone to do. It's insane. They had all those computers to do what a fucking calculator does. That's all it did was it was a calculator. Before that is this giant sized fucking room. It was designed for using math and stuff. And then we have Lady Ada Lovelace. What's wrong with you? Why do you know this?
I read a study guide material thing on the history of computer science.
Yesterday?
Not
Or do you just
yesterday,
remember shit well?
Just remember well.
Fuck yeah, you go, brother. It's fucking awesome. The legitimate child of poet, Lord Byron. Okay, so what did she do?
Annotated Charles Babbage's work and explained stuff, and it was like 4 times longer after she added what she did.
That sounds like a fucking spiel written by a man. She actually made it so people could understand what was fucking going on. So the computer, what he made was all a machine. Took a fucking manual to do. Didn't have fucking simple input instructions. We type in fucking calculate this. That's programming language we use. He just had a machine that did the stuff. You have to turn all the fucking bells, whistles, and knobs shit. And she came up with a way to fucking give it information. They used punch cards for a while, like holes in the paper meant certain letters or numbers, stuff like that. I don't know what she used in the beginning with her. But she also recognized that it wasn't just for math. We were using this machine for just mathematical purposes. And she would recognize it was good for other things. What did she come up with it for? For educational and social exploits. What does that mean? That sounds wrong. Her mother attended one of Charles Babbage's Saturday night soirees. She was a little math hussy. She did a lot of stuff, and then like said, okay, this isn't just a math thing. We can actually do this for other things. She didn't come up with Skyrim. She didn't come up with gaming per se, but she realized there was more to what we could do with this than just do math. Alan Turing. What movie's on him? The Enigma Code. So he was trying to beat the Enigma machine. We're fast forward to World War II. It's Germans, it's Nazi. World War II. They've got the Enigma machine. It is a way of coding messages.
It has like you press a key on the.
I'm just done here. You want to list the names, and I'll let you do the next names.
There's like 3 different rotors, I think, and each one has a bunch of wires randomly going from one input to one output. And so when you press a key, it goes into a rotor and out to another random place, and then in another one and out another random place. And again, and then it turns around and goes through them backwards from a different output. So then you press the key, it goes to that, goes all the way back, and then a different button lights up. And it's like mirrored. So if you set the rotors, if you have the right combination of 3 of the 5 rotors you have available, and you put them in the exact right positions, and then you press a key that's a coded message that you have, and it goes backwards through the path that it originally went through, and you get the letter that you started with. And every time you press a key, a rotor turns. And so it's not just a Caesar cipher, because it's constantly rotating. And the way they figured out how to break it
cipher
is that with the way it's mirrored, a letter can't output itself. And so they can take something that they know the Germans probably put in the message somewhere and find the places that it's not there, where none of the letters are the same. I was gonna say the same thing.
So I'm going to say in my fucking, don't be offended, but this is in my retarded format. I'm just going to say they had an encryption device.
It's over 100.
Please, if you have someone that has physical handicaps or something like that, I'm not referencing that. Mine is a mental health problem where I clearly can't do shit like that and remember shit like that, because that's fucking awesome. Good job. What's your name?
Jared.
Jared. I remember that. Jared's the fucking encyclopedia in here. Wikipedia. Jaredpedia. Wicked Jared. Wicked Jared? Jaredpedia. Wiki Jerry. No.
No?
He don't look like Jerry. It's a Jared.
It's Jared, yeah.
All right. So They've got this device that encrypts it. Buy all that fucking bells and whistle shit. But it may seem like it's random, but it's not really random because if you know the right combination of shit, you can undo it and decrypt it. And so they would encrypt their messages and send it out to their fucking, like, this is headquarters of Nazi Germany, send out the messages. And the fucking troops out on the front get the messages and they know today's code, probably from some fucking carrier pigeon or some other delivery. You don't send the message with the decryption device. And they throw the decryption code in there and they fucking get the message back. And every once in a while, like the fucking English would be able to intercept the message and the decryption, but not very often. So, and it wasn't really helpful because they didn't have the Enigma machines until they captured one of those. But if you don't know the code, it doesn't fucking help you. So along comes Alan Turing, and he figured out how to decrypt that shit using a computer. That's the Enigma machine. Well, the Enigma machine was the code. He's the one that broke the code. Cipher means inscription. Encryption. Cipher means encryption. He referenced cipher. A cipher is a coded message. So when you hear the word cipher or decipher, cipher is to put a message in a secret code. Decipher is to take the message out of the secret code and make it like what he said into me just saying it's a fucking encryption device. So you put it in normal words. Yeah, a long way of saying encryption device. Yeah, a lot of details. That's fucking good. I didn't watch the movie. Is it in the movie? Where'd you get all these details? There's no way that shit's in the fucking handout.
I haven't seen the movie. That was, I watched a YouTube video on the Enigma machine.
There you go.
There's the way they ended up figuring it out was the machine was going on for months and months and months, and it wasn't really getting anything. And then finally they noticed that
Sounds like my grad research.
that they were managed to decipher. It ended up with like Del Hitler or something like that. And because of that single pattern, that's kind of they fed it back into the Enigma machine with that like adjustment, and that's how they figured it out. It's really really cool.
Nice. If you ever want to try out deciphering code, it's actually kind of fun. Looked up something called cryptograms. They will give you a coded message, and it's usually just a single letter replaces another letter. So D might represent A. And it's not necessarily in a pattern. It's not necessarily like they're all shifted by 3 letters, which is a very basic pattern, but some of them are just random swaps of letters. And you can see a coded message and try to break it down looking for patterns in languages. It's kind of fun. So he cracks the code. He helps fucking us defeat, not us. I'm not English. He helps the fucking the people in Europe fucking defeat the Germans. Then along comes Grace Hopper.
A0 and B0, the early programming languages.
Oh, Grace Hopper.
Grace Hopper. She made the COBOL high-level programming language, one of the first languages we use. Okay. So, quick note. High-level programming. With strong abstraction from the details, in contrast to low-level programming languages, which uses natural language elements like double, int. So what we do is low-level shit. What the computer reads is like high-level shit. What our IDE does is translates our low-level fucking monkey brain shit into the high-level, I'm Skynet shit.
I think it's the other way around, right? Because like we learned that what comes after like you get the thing and it turns into the sort of code. What is it called? It's like what the computer actually reads with the zeros. No. It's right above assembly. So assembly would be like low level, right? And high level would be like C++ or Python.
I think so.
Because low level indicates like.
Am I saying it backwards? Let's see. Oh, abstraction from machine language. I am saying it backwards. You're right. There we go. See, I don't know everything. So all the stuff we deal with or the computer deals with, we write it in our own damn language. She came up with, that makes more sense. It makes more sense of why it was important. Because Lady Lovelace did already fucking set up a fucking, the computer language, how the computer speaks, the good old binary code. But like no one speaks binary. And like to turn like letters and words and shit into binary is, that's a fucking pain in the ass. Try changing, look up how binary code works. Then you need the ASCII code key for how letters use numbers. Switch that to binary and try to just make a basic fucking word, your name. Write it in binary. It's a fucking task. Now do that where it fucking just does it for every single word you could enter. She did some fucking, she came up with the first like language we use, where we interact with the computer the way we interact with it now. Okay. Was she cute? I don't know. Let's find out. Hot. Look at her. She's smoking. What she looked like before? She's always fucking old. Look at that. So she came up with COBOL, one of the first languages, common business oriented language.
Was Fortran before or after?
After.
After.
Was Fortran the one that's for business and math? And before that, they just had they had computers and programming languages for scientists and math people, and computers and programming languages for business people when they're basically the same.
Let's take a look. It's for numeric computation and scientific computing. I knew it from scientific computing. That's what I did my graduate research program on. I did solar activity using Fortran 90 because it's good for scientific computing. Whether it was good, used for businesses, I did computational fluid dynamics right there. Mine was a little bit better though, fluid dynamics. It might have been used for business. It says IBM, well, no. This is a very specific question. Is Fortran used for business? Yeah.
He's studying for academic.
He's studying for fucking Jeopardy is what he's doing. Do you go to FNL, Jared?
What?
You go to Friday Night Labs?
No.
I want you to come tonight.
Okay.
It's very important. I really think you're gonna really like an announcement tonight that I'm not telling until 6 o'clock when it starts.
Okay.
You're gonna like it. I know you're gonna fucking like it. I know you're gonna like it. If you're still around campus, do you know where Friday Night Labs is? If you go in this door right here, go down the hall, it's the last door on the right. Everybody's gonna be standing outside of it. And you'll see me inside there at 6. I'm going over there directly after this.
Okay.
And there's chess club next door.
I was planning on going to chess club.
You're gonna go to chess club?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll just direct you right there.
lead them over. You should come, everybody from chess club should come over. It's for the announcements.
Part of the reason why I went to chess club.
All right, so that's Grace Hopper. Then there's the girl that you're all gonna fucking love. Hedy Lamarr. What does Hedy Lamarr do?
Oh. Never heard of her.
No.
Oh, look, check it out, this babe. Look at that chick. Fucking actress, super smart actress. Bluetooth.
Oh, that's cool.
She came up with Bluetooth. Some actress just fucking came up with Bluetooth. Well, what became Bluetooth, I should say. She invented a radio guidance system for torpedoes. It is doing using computers and radio frequency and tying the two together. I don't know. Jaredpedia, do you know when Bluetooth came out?
Nope. Covered them all.
He's gonna go home and fucking be like, you know when Bluetooth came
No,
out.
I know why they picked, I know why they picked Bluetooth. It's because of one of
They were
its-
eating Smurfs.
No, it's it's because of it's a North. It was named after a Norwegian god. So you can name Bluetooth. It's in if you Google.
Okay, so why was it named after a Norwegian god?
Because in his fiction, and he brought a Norwegian god, Norwegian prince, like king.
Named after King Harold Knudsen, who united Denmark and Norway.
Why?
But why Bluetooth and
It's
what?
his nickname. That's what peace.
Did he have blue teeth? Did he eat a lot of blueberries?
He was called Harald the Bluetooth.
That's just his name.
Y'all fucking are.
1999. Nobody knows.
Oh, and then the internet, what we give a shit about. Guess who came up with the internet? I know you know this. You gotta know this. You knew every fuck.
Universities? Or, oh, you know, the military? Doesn't matter.
Department of Defense, the military.
It's always the military.
Military comes up with a lot of shit.
They funded
Militaries came. We told you. We started off with how to decrypt German fucking military applications. Got a lot of shit. Department of Defense actually funds a lot of fucking advancements.
They funded early computers because they needed firing tables to tell people using artillery in World War II, I think.
Like a
where
random.
to point the guns, given like wind speed and distance and all that. And they had the computer people doing it by hand, but like that took forever. And so people were being shipped off to war without the manuals to the guns. And then they finished it like 2 years after the war was over. So
So there you go. Right? What Jared Knows by Jaredpedia. All right, let's wrap it up. Friday, Chess Next Door, Friday Night Labs, be there or regret it. That's not a threat as a teacher. I'm just gonna say you're gonna be sad that you missed it.
Hey, Hefe, you ever see Malbolge? The worst coding language possible.
No.
It is so difficult to write that a human being can't do it. They have to get like cryptographic programs to do it. If you look up how to do Hello World, it is this horrid string of characters.
Why would someone do that?
I think it was like a bet, be like, oh yeah, any computer programming language that can do XYZ
Okay.
is just as good as this one. Okay. And then it was just this horrible mess.
All right. Interesting. I'll have to look it up later.
Yeah, it's
All
a nightmare.
Peace, guys. If you're around or you can make it to campus, you're gonna want to be here.